Hey everyone, ready to really dig into a career path you guys have been asking about. We're talking games development management, and we're going deep on this one. We've got all the intel from RoleCatcher to help make sense of it all.
You know, it's funny. We always think about game development as this like super creative field, right? And it is. But the games development manager, they're the ones who make the whole thing happen. From that first spark of an idea to a finished game in the hands of players.
I like that. So they're not just making the games themselves, they're managing the whole journey. And RoleCatcher actually lays out that journey pretty clearly. You don't just start at the top.
Definitely not. A lot of times you're going to start as a junior game developer. That means coding, design, really getting your hands dirty, learning how games work at the most basic level.
So it's like you got to pay your dues, but in a way that's actually, really cool and creative. Then you move up the ranks. And that's where things shift a bit, according to RoleCatcher.
More responsibility.
Right.
Exactly. You go from making one piece of the game to overseeing entire teams. Suddenly, it's not just about if the code is clean, but can we actually afford to make this game? Will it be profitable? Which, by the way, RoleCatcher is saying this whole career path, it's just blowing up right now.
Oh, really? So there's a demand for these, like, multi-talented manager types, especially with VR, AR, all that taken off. That makes sense why RoleCatcher really stresses understanding the business side of the industry. It's not just fun and games anymore, huh?
You got it. They actually use the phrase, I kid you not, client satisfaction, right alongside consumer demand in their guide. It's like they're making sure you know this isn't just art, it's a business.
Right, so someone comes in just thinking about the cool creative stuff, that might throw them off. It's smart that RoleCatcher puts that out there early on.
Imagine pouring your heart into this amazing game only to find out it, like, totally doesn't fit the free-to-play model the client wants. Or it's too complex to explain to people, so marketing's going to have a nightmare. Those are things a good games development manager needs to consider.
It's like they always say, right?
Right.
It's all fun and games until,
Yeah.
well, you get the idea. Which reminds me, RoleCatcher gets into that whole interview process too, don't they? They've got that interview prep section. Got to be some good stuff in there.
Yeah, they really do. They even give examples of, like, actual questions you might get asked. This one stood out to me. How do you balance a team's creative vision, which, let's face it, can get pretty wild, with the technical stuff, the limits of what you can actually build? That's a tough one.
Oh, for sure. You got designers off in their own world, developers trying to make it work. It's a balancing act, no doubt. What do you think they're looking for in answer to that kind of question?
I think it's about showing you're that bridge, right? You can say, hey, I see the vision, I get it, but here's the reality of what we can do, and here's how we make it even better within those constraints. That kind of like problem-solving mindset, that's huge for a games development manager.
It's like those moments in game dev where something just isn't working and you got to make a tough call, right?
And speaking of tough calls, RoleCatcher asks about that too. They want to know about a time you had to make a difficult decision.
Oh, yeah, it's going to happen. Deadlines, budgets, sometimes you got to make a choice that not everyone's going to be happy about. I think the key is to show you can gather all the info, look at it objectively, and then do what's best for the game as a whole, even if it means delaying things or going back to the drawing board a bit.
That's the mark of a leader, making those tough decisions when the pressure's on. And it's cool that RoleCatcher even has that AI thing to practice for interviews.
Oh, the AI-powered interview prep. It's like having a digital coach in your corner, getting you ready to face those hiring managers. You can practice against their AI recruiter as much as you need to get comfortable talking about your experience, showing off those leadership skills. It's like a boss fight, but for your dream job. But this whole thing has got me thinking, being a games development manager, it's not just about the technical side at all. It's got to be about the people too, right?
100%. Think back to what we were saying about client satisfaction. Well, that usually comes down to having a happy, productive team.
RoleCatcher, they really hit on communication skills throughout their guide, and it makes total sense.
Because you're not just managing projects and hitting deadlines, you're managing people with their own ideas and creative visions. And let's be real, probably some big personalities in the mix too. It's like, what did we say before? Herding cats. But these are like super smart, creative cats who all have strong opinions about what makes a good game.
Huh. That's a good way to put it. And it really shows why being able to communicate well is so important in this job. You're always dealing with all these different personalities and what they expect and what they want to create.
Right. So it's not enough to just be organized and keep things on schedule. You've got to get everyone on the same page, working toward the same goal. Yeah. And that's not something you can do by just like bossing people around. You have to build actual relationships,
Yeah.
figure out what makes each person on the team tick and how to create a work environment where they can actually do their best work.
Especially because game development, it can be pretty intense, right?
Yeah.
Especially with deadlines looming and those inevitable bugs that pop up and need fixing like yesterday.
Oh, for sure. A good games development manager, they know how to keep everyone focused, keep the energy up, even when it gets tough, celebrating the wins, both big and small, and knowing how to handle those moments when people get frustrated, which is bound to happen.
It's like being the coach, right?
Hey.
Keeping everyone motivated and pushing them to do their best, even when they're tired and facing a tough opponent.
Love that comparison. And just like a good coach, a successful games development manager, they know that when the team succeeds, they succeed. It's about that shared feeling of accomplishment.
So anyone listening out there who wants to make those awesome games that everyone's talking about, it sounds like being a games development manager, it's not just about the technical skills. It's about leadership, it's about communication, and honestly, it's about being passionate about games.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a challenging role, definitely, but for those who have the drive, the vision, and that ability to bring people together, it's incredibly rewarding.
Well, there you have it. We really dug deep on games development management, covering the career path, the skills you need, all thanks to the amazing info from RoleCatcher.
And don't forget, this was just a taste. They've got a ton more on their site, so definitely go check out their full career guide for all the details.
They've got everything you need, from taking those first steps to getting ready for that big job interview. Who knows, maybe you'll be leading the next gaming revolution.
Now, as you keep exploring this career path, here's something to think about. How has the rise of indie games, smaller teams, often working with way less money, how has that changed what it means to be a games development manager? What new challenges do they face?
That's a great question. Definitely something to consider. And with that, we'll let you get back to your deep dive. Thanks for listening.